Alright, right now, I'm just... Fuck, that didn't... Fuck. There we are. Right now, I'm just hoping that the camera doesn't fall down and that the rain that's been going on all day doesn't start up again right now that I'm filming. Oh god, that's not going to work, is it? That's also... Fuck. So, jokes. Where did you come from? What? Untranslatable jokes in languages tend to be wordplay and puns and stuff like that because they all center around the words and the phonology and the grammar of the language that they're in. And so by their very nature, if you change the words and the orthography and everything, if you change that stuff that the joke is based in, it doesn't work. And so you can't translate the vast majority of wordplay and puns from one language into another. An example of an untranslatable joke from a very interesting language went viral recently, and I mean, whether or not it's untranslatable is debatable, and I'll get to that in a second, but it went viral recently as a joke from ancient Sumeria, and I think it came from a Wikipedia article. This Wikipedia article that was clearly written by someone who was confused and didn't quite understand the translation process. They wrote down this ancient Sumerian bar joke, and they translated it as something like, a dog walks into a bar. He says, "I can't see anything. I'll open that one." And this Wikipedia user has written, "We have no clue what this joke means, but it probably related to the Sumerian way of life." And this sort of caught on in the internet, the prospect of like a joke that is hilarious to people like 4,000 years ago or whatever. And then 4,000 years later, the culture's changed so much that it's incomprehensible. But it was really interesting. It was really interesting to watch this sort of like... Because I'm pretty sure this came from like 2 inscriptions in Sumeria, like easily, like 1,000-year-old jokes written down by some people, and then 4,000 years or however many thousand years later, they go viral on the internet. Which is something the Sumerians could never have even like comprehended when they were writing these jokes down. You're just showing off to camera, aren't you, Risky? You're just showing off. Shut up. Look at the little bastard go. But I saw a thread on Twitter ages ago from some person who was, from what I could gather from their account, they were like some annoying political person. But apparently they had a big interest in Sumerian linguistics. And so they found the original text that this joke was translated from and sort of found out that the translation everyone was reciting, that a dog walks into a bar, he says, "I can't see anything, I'll open this one," that just like doesn't make any sense at all. He found out that it actually does make sense if you take a different approach to translating it. And obviously, like, language is massively ambiguous. Context and culture and everything would have made it clearer to the Sumerians than it is to us. But we're left with this sort of joke that's written down in ancient Sumerian, and we can sort of pick various methods of translating it. And the Wikipedia article went with one that's not really clear. It's not very easy to tell what it actually means or is trying to communicate or anything. It's just very confusing translation. And this is the translation that a few scholars have gone with. They've been like, because bars in Sumeria often doubled as brothels. And so, Risky, no. And so the scholars are saying, Risky, for fuck's sake. So since a lot of Sumerian bars doubles as brothels, or brothels, I don't know how it's pronounced. I presume brothel, actually. The scholars are like, when he says, "Oh my god, you have to be kidding me." Oh fuck, oh no, I can feel the rain falling down now too. Oh no, this is a disaster. Bars in Sumeria often doubled as brothels, and so the scholars are like, well, the dog goes into a brothel, says, "I can't see anything, I'll open this one." This one is referring to a door, and so he's like, I can't see anything happening, I can't see any sex, I'm going to open a door and see what I see. That seems a really weak translation, like a really weak approach to take. That's not really funny. And I might be biased by my modern perceptions of what's funny, I probably am, but I much prefer the approach that this random person on Twitter took to translating it, which was they did a real in-depth analysis of how they broke it down and sort of went into all the grammatical stuff. The original text of the joke goes like this. Urgire estamshein kurma, ning name igi numuundu, neen ngal takainche. The approach that they used figured out that the joke could be interpreted as something like this. A friendly dog walks into a bar. He can't see, or he hasn't opened his eyes. He should open them. The joke could kind of be translated as his eyes can't see, so he should open them. And it's like a massive dad joke. It's terrible, which is probably why I'm so fond of it. But the joke entirely centers upon the fact that in Sumerian, the verb for to open your eyes is the same as the verb for to see. That was a cow. Well, I'll be darned. It's the same as the verb to see, and so it's like dog walks into a bar, he can't see anything, which also can be interpreted as he hasn't opened his eyes. And then you assume it means he can't see anything, and then it's like he should open his eyes, and you're like, oh, it actually meant his eyes were closed the whole time. What a silly joke. But yeah, not only does the ambiguity of the language sort of have a massive role in how difficult it is to translate for certain, but also the grammar of the language sort of contributes to it. The fact that he can't see can also be translated as he hasn't opened his eyes. That's like a big grammatical ambiguity, which is what leads this joke to be funny, if this is the way it was interpreted originally. And so we see here a joke that is not only untranslatable in that it relies on grammar, but if we take the approach of the other scientists of it being based around like brothels and stuff, it's untranslatable because there's been 4,000 years of cultural difference between us and the people who wrote this joke. That's definitely my favorite example of an untranslatable joke, purely because it's not only a different language, but it's also a different time, and it's so far removed from anything that we're familiar with, and that just lends itself to being so hard to translate. What's that little dot? You're shitting me. And I thought lastly I'd finish off with a joke that's like more... The way that you say, what's the name of Reagan's dog? Oh, I'm sitting on my phone! I'm so dumb! You did not hear anything of what I've just said. Gonna finish off with a less far removed example of an untranslatable joke. And go for something that's in Russian. Someone asks, "Как зовут собаку Рейгана?" And someone else replies, "Ronald." The joke here is that in Russian, if you want to ask, what's the name of Reagan's dog, it sounds exactly the same as if you're asking, what's the name of that Reagan dog? And so someone asks, what's the name of Reagan's dog? And someone else replies, Ronald. And I think good on the Russians, getting back on Reagan for all his, Soviet jokes that he told during his presidency.
They actually tell this joke in Russia. One man walked up to another man and said, "Have you seen my keys?" And the other one said, "I hate living in Russia." Now, you see here, the joke is, oh, I fucking hate gay.
Anyway, yeah, that's just a few... This whole thing was a disaster to film. There's a few things that I think you might find interesting about untranslatable jokes. This was disastrous. This was so terrible. Hold on. There we are. I'm taking you with me. I'm just going to stop the audio. There we are. This is where I'm at the moment. It's a very nice place. You can see all of the field of... Oh my god, don't focus like that. You can see the field of dead... My hand looks like it only has 3 fingers when I hold it out this way. That's so eerie. The field of dead lucerne doesn't do much to add to the beauty of the environment, let alone the pile of the pile of ash sitting there and all the cow shit lying about. If I just go like this, there we go. Now it's a beautiful landscape.